most people settle for a life of regret than a life of uncertainty. And I don't want to be one of those people. I've seen too many people in my life do that, just settle for the status quo. And I'm happy jumping into a life of uncertainty because I know that the outcomes are going to be greater than I could have ever imagined. And so I'm embracing that life.
I'm excited for this episode
Too.
because we're going to talk about your life as a stay-at-home mom. Just kidding. Welcome back to an episode of Better Together. Today we're going to talk about Amanda's EOS journey. We'll explain what that is. But just excited to get into talking about making a big pivot as you enter your 40s, what that looked like for you, what a blessing that's been for you as a person, but also as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, entrepreneur, what a blessing this has been in your life. And I'm just excited to talk about what the journey's been like this far. And I want to hear some big ambitions out of you. I want you to say them out loud, say the big ones. And let's end this episode with something that our audience can write down and hold you accountable to.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
Good.
That sounds a little scary. Are you ready?
I'm not scared of nothing. Yeah, I'm excited about talking about some stories about, my journey, talking about starting something new at 40 and giving people a little bit of an inside glimpse of what it took to get me to where I am today and talk about where I'm going next.
Awesome. Let's do it. Let's set it up. You were primed for success. You had every leading indicator, right? Massive network in the exact demographic that you were targeting, tons of experience in the industry you're moving into, and
MBA.
Let's see, MBA, worked for none of that. None of that. You are living proof and example of anything is possible if you put your mind to it and put in the work, put in the reps, right?
Go.
First, we all know what a mom is, but what is an EOS implementer?
Well, so I'm a mom. I'm a mom of 5. As you know, you're my partner.
How old are your children?
My kids are 10, 11, 13, 15, and 17. So for many, many years, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was a homeschool mom. I supported...
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind chooses to be a homeschool mom of 5 children
Right.
with no confidence academically?
Right. I didn't go to school to become a teacher. I don't have a teaching degree. We kind of fell into homeschooling. That was sort of...
I'm just teasing you about no confidence academically.
Yeah, I had full confidence
Yeah.
academically. But, I always knew, going into homeschooling, I think that was like, I always say homeschooling chose us. We kind of fell into it. It kind of happened at a time where we were moving from one side of the country to the other. We're entrepreneurs. It worked with our lifestyle. It was super flexible, and it was really supposed to be a Band-Aid. We talked about it when we were transitioning our life from Florida back to California, and we were like, look, we don't know where we're going to be living. The kids are really young. Like, what do they really learn in these early years? And so it worked for us. And we thought maybe it'd be like a semester. That turned into 3 years. That really seems like a theme in our life that happens to us. We just kind of like try something and then it sticks for a lot longer than we anticipate. But it was great. Those years were incredible. I wouldn't trade them for anything. And I fell in love with it. I think I am a teacher at heart. And I think when I was a little kid, I thought I wanted to be a teacher of some sort. And, and there's those classic like things or roles or jobs that little girls want to do, a veterinarian or a teacher or, so I wanted to be a teacher and tried my hand at it. I was a homeschool mom at one point, it was 4 kids under the age of 7. And then we adopted our son. And then it was 5 kids.
So in the middle of all the homeschooling chaos,
we adopted a child, an
No big
older
deal.
child who didn't speak the same language as myself. And then, so I found myself homeschooling 5 kids under the age of 11. One was an English language learner. We didn't speak the same language. I had 2 who were in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 2 that were kindergarten, preschool age. It was a lot to manage, and I was underwater. And I always joked from the beginning when we decided to homeschool, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can figure this out as we go along. But you know that show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Yeah.
From Jeff Foxworthy, he was the host. I was like, I am not. I know I'm not. I cannot. Like, I can't teach past fifth grade. That's going to be my limit. I knew from day one, like starting out with my first grader. And also, I grew up in Canada. So all of the like American geography and history and all of that, I didn't learn that stuff growing up. So I really was learning as I was going. And I knew I had limitations, but I'm a day by day kind of person. We're just going to figure it out as we go along, which is something that we do. So we did that. And
I think we knew it was coming to an end, but do you remember the exact conversation with one of our kids that was like, this is ending?
Yeah, it was our youngest, Jameis. He was 4 years old, and he came up to me one day as I was sitting at the kitchen table homeschooling, and he goes, I don't know what you're going to do with the rest of these kids, but next year I'm going to real school and I'm going to make lots of friends.
So many friends.
He is our most extroverted child, so that's not really a surprise. But I was like, wait, hold up. This is real school.
Yeah.
I am doing real planning and putting in real work. So this is real school. So rude. But also, I've reached the end of my rope. And it was good while it was good, but then when it wasn't, it wasn't.
Well, let's put a pin in homeschooling. I think when we look back, it's part of the...
We could do a whole episode about homeschooling.
Maybe we will.
Yeah, that's probably coming.
We might have to bring the kids in for that one to get
sure.
their version of it right into like COVID school. I am going to circle back to it because I love one thing that you mentioned already. And so we're going to make sure we circle back and hit that nugget again. But first, tell me, what is it that you do?
Okay. So I am an EOS implementer. So an EOS implementer is not a consultant. They're a teacher, facilitator, and coach.
What's EOS?
So EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
So it's like software.
No. So you know that.
I know all the leading questions.
Yes. No, it's a holistic system. It's simple tools, timeless concepts. They've been around for 100 years. They're going to be around for 1,000 more. And what they do is they strengthen the 6 key components of your business. So
which are?
Their vision, people, data, process, issues, and traction. So it is an agnostic system that will improve any business in any industry. It's designed for small to medium-sized businesses with about 10 to 250 employees. So I go in and I work with leaders and their teams, with leadership teams, and I help them get better at 3 things. We call them vision, traction, and healthy. So vision is getting you and your leaders in your organization 100% aligned with your vision and your plan, all rowing in the same direction. Traction is from the standpoint of getting you all much more disciplined and accountable to gain actual real traction, bring that vision down to the ground. Gino Wickman is the author of the book Traction. He created this whole thing. And he likes to say vision without traction is hallucination. So we bring that vision down to the ground, create goals, and create a strategic plan to really gain traction on your vision. And then healthy just means helping you and your leaders to become a more cohesive, functional, healthy team, because oftentimes leaders don't function well as a team. So we do that. There are over 800 EOS implementers worldwide, and we get to go in and help people get more of what they want from their business, run a better business, live a better life. And we find that as goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. So eventually, no matter where you look, everyone in your organization, top to bottom, they're rowing in the same direction, executing on your vision and plan, all together as a cohesive bunch of people who enjoy spending time together. That's what I have the privilege of doing day in and day out. And it's my absolute life's passion. I'm thrilled to be able to have this opportunity to help people get more of what they want from their businesses. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, as you are, and this is a way for me to really funnel that passion into something that is really making a huge impact on the world. So I get to do that. And I'm a teacher, facilitator, and coach. I go in and I teach the EOS tools. I help facilitate the wisdom in the room, the tough conversations that need to be had. And I get to go and coach people to become their best selves. So
you hold the owner, CEO, president, all the top level people that often don't experience high accountability.
Right.
You get to hold them accountable in front of the rest of their team, setting a standard and an expectation that they're all going to follow.
That's super fun. And I have to say, all my years of being a mother, to this horde of children have prepared me quite well, because I feel like we have a little group of tiny CEOs here at home.
Well, I love one thing you said there. You said helping the business owner get what they want. And so EOS, that's where we've certainly seen that EOS is a formula that doesn't deliver a specific deliverable. It delivers what the owner wants. And the owner gets to identify that and then create a track to pursue it with the implementer. And so when people often say like, well, I hear that works in the lawn care industry. We're in tech. It's like, okay, do you want to get what you want from your business?
Right.
Because the lawn care guy told me what he wanted from his business. And that's what we're going after.
Right.
And if you tell me different things, we'll go after different things. Use the same outline, same structure, but the deliverable, the end result is whatever you say you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's what you go after. That's awesome. I've just met you. We have 90 seconds. We're literally on an elevator. We're going to like the 44th floor, and it's not one of those zip ones that takes you up in about 3 seconds and makes your stomach go into your throat and then back down into your stomach again. It's like a little bit of a slower ride. So you got like 90 seconds. So I've just met you. I want to know a little bit about you. Why would I ever choose you as my EOS implementer? First, I got to choose EOS. Why would I ever choose you as my EOS implementer?
Yeah, like I said, there's 800 EOS implementers worldwide and growing. When I talk to prospective clients, I tell them, you got to decide, well, 3 things. Number 1, is EOS right for you? Number 2, can you tolerate Amanda? Is Amanda right for you? And number 3, is EOS going to be ROI positive for your business? All kinds of people out there who teach EOS, they've come from many life experiences, different backgrounds. We're all cut from the same cloth, but we're all very different. And so you need to decide who is the right fit for me to lead me on this journey. I know I'm not the right fit for everyone, right? It doesn't work that way. So you have to decide for yourself if it's me or if it's the next guy or whatever. And if it is the next guy, that's totally okay. We're an abundance-minded organization, group of people.
Okay, but so you're telling me that we have to pick the right person and the right system and be all in, but I want to hear your 90-second elevator pitch. I just met you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, tell me about yourself and what you do.
Yeah. So that being said, I am a first-generation born Canadian. My grandparents were all political refugees. My parents are immigrants. I did not come from an entrepreneurial family. I was bit by the entrepreneurial bug when I met and married you. I swear you came out of the womb with a business plan. So we've been living an entrepreneurial life for the last 20 years. When we first started our business, we didn't know what we didn't know, right? So we were learning from our mistakes, growing by our reputation, but we knew there was a better and easier way to run a business. So in those startup years, we read traction, and that was the light bulb moment. That was the big aha. And I implemented the tools and disciplines in my own business and experienced exponential results because of it. I got everything I wanted from my business. It changed my life, both personally and professionally. We ended up in the top 5 of 125 franchises nationwide. We won Franchise Business Review Rockstar of the Year Award. We blew all of our, BHAGs, our big, hairy, audacious goals, out of the water because we were using these tools and disciplines. So I walk the talk. I've experienced the power of EOS in my own business, my own life. So that's why I'm super passionate about helping entrepreneurs get what they want from their business. And so I'm excited to meet you here on this elevator today to tell you a little bit about EOS, and that's a little bit about me and where I come from. And, if that resonates with you, if that resonates with people, then I'm happy to join forces and work together.
Okay, so it sounds like you're super extroverted. You run headlong into gale-forced winds.
Right.
Don't care, just going to get there. Wow, what a personality type. You have to be wired a very specific way for this to be, then my nose still itches. You have to be wired a very specific way to enter into something like this, and you must have had a significant network in place. Is that accurate?
I like this line of questioning of just like let's point out like all the obvious no's. No. No. So I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. And I think we discussed this on a previous episode. If you didn't listen to that episode, you should go back and listen to our episode about how we met and our relationship. But you and I are exact opposites. We're yin and yang, right? Like, so you're an ENFP, you're very extroverted, you're a feeler. I am an ISTJ, I'm introverted, I'm a thinker. We're super opposite in every regard. I think that that's what makes us. But no, I'm an introvert. I'm a very social introvert. I always like to joke, like, I have a very extroverted face, but I'm an introvert through and through. I'm a very social introvert, so I'm not like a wallflower. I will be, if I go to a party, I'm a social butterfly, but, know thyself to lead thyself. I know that I have a limited capacity when I hit that point.
When you hit empty.
Whatever that point is, I'm done. I'm done. So I know now this stage of the game, like for instance, with you and I, you don't have that point, right? Like you just get more and more energized when you're around people. My energy depletes.
So what's your self-care hack? Because it sounds like you're in an industry and in a career where you have to be on for an extended period of time. What are some of your hacks to prepare for that? And then
I was just going to say, one of my hacks with you is that when we're at a party and I feel like I'm ready to go, I have to gauge like 30 minutes before I know that I'm going to feel like I'm ready to go and do the like, okay, let's wrap it up. Because I can tell already like early stages of where I'm going to hit that point, right? Like once I've hit that point where I'm done, it's like too late.
So how long is a single day session?
So I work with leaders and their teams for 6 to 8 hours.
So if you feel that wall coming at hour 6, what are your hacks? How do you get through it?
When I'm in a session,
Celsius
honestly,
and 2 coffees.
I definitely prepare, a survival kit when I go into the session room with like an energy drink with some, treats and stuff like that.
Would you say that your clients are always aware right away that you're an introvert?
No, I think not just my clients, but colleagues, anybody that I converse with. I think when I tell them I'm an introvert, they're very surprised. I think that I've gotten really good at sort of hacking my personality, like you said, and that has to do with managing my energy. So I make sure that I get enough rest. I love sleeping. I'm a big sleeper. 6 to 8 hours that's not even enough for me. Like I need like 8 to 10 hours usually on a regular basis. So sleep is really important to me. The quality of my sleep and quantity, making sure that I get my body moving, exercise. Physical fitness is mental fitness for me. So keeping myself mentally fit so that I can engage and stay engaged for a longer period of time than maybe I'm wired to normally do has to do a lot with my physical abilities or like my capabilities, and staying physically fit helps with that. So there are things that I do to kind of like when not in a situation, but like when I'm out of a situation to prepare my body and my mind.
Tell me about why EOS and maybe not why. How did that happen? I'd love to hear how it happened. You're a high fact finder. And so if you're familiar with Colby, high fact finder. So what was the process like? How did you get to the place where you felt comfortable? Because it's a financial investment to become an implementer.
Yeah.
A significant financial investment. And how did you collect all the data you needed and get comfortable? How long did it take you to feel comfortable with the idea? And then how bad was the regret once you once you jumped in?
No regret. I'll just start right there. No regret. Becoming an implementer was the best decision I've ever made. And
whoa, I was a decision.
Yeah, kind of. We could talk about that on another episode. But no, I didn't know what an implementer was. There are a lot of ways that you can implement EOS tools in your business, right? You could read the book. Buy the book online. It's $20. Sometimes you can find it on sale. So for under $20, you can do EOS. And I like to joke, like we did it the long, slow, hard way.
I would tell people I crammed 18 months of learning into 5 years.
Right. Like not recommended. It's not,
No.
That's not the best way. It's not the best and right way of doing it. But, it's better than nothing. So that's how we did it.
And we say that self-implementing is using EOS tools. Hiring an implementer is running on EOS.
Right.
And there is a significant distinction.
Sure.
But if you're at a place where you don't have the resources to bring in an implementer, using the tools levels you up significantly. I think what I didn't fully understand was that then hiring an EOS implementer leveled us up again at least to that amount as the initial leveling up.
Yeah, like when we talk about training, for instance, like getting physically fit. I went to the gym for years and I didn't really see results. I saw some results, but not the results that I wanted. One day I hired a trainer at the gym. I saw this beautiful woman standing at this podium. I'm like, I want to look like her. I hired her as my coach, and that just skyrocketed my results, right? So if you hire a coach, doesn't matter if it's in your business, in your personal life, whatever, you're going to get results faster and better because they're experts. Coaches are invaluable, right? So
Do you have a coach?
I do. I have many coaches. So I'm a big advocate for coaching. I hired an EOS implementer. I run my implementing business on EOS, and I hired an implementer and I work with him just like my clients work with me. Coaches need coaches, and there's a big difference between doing it yourself and hiring a coach and running on EOS with a coach and following the EOS proven process. I have seen both sides, and so I have a really unique perspective. I can speak that confidently. So anyway, you and I implemented EOS in our business almost a decade ago, and we did it the long, slow, hard way. We DIY'd it, and we were using EOS tools, and I thought that's what doing EOS was. I thought you read traction and you do traction.
We thought we were running on EOS. Yeah,
right.
We were not.
You don't know what you don't know. But
I did tell you when you went to training, babe, I have some bad news.
right.
Yes, I am aware. I know that we're not using all the tools. I know that we're not running. At that point, I was aware.
So you think you were like an ostrich, like you had your head in the sand? You were just like, oh, this is fine.
No, I knew we had leveled up by using tools, but it's really hard to be the person that holds the implementation process and manages that navigation while also managing the navigation of the entire company as the CEO. And as a ENFP visionary connector, woo, like all those things, wired to feel like we can do it all.
Yeah.
Because we can do it all once. It's like the consistency that actually is the magic of EOS, right? And so we do it once, we talk a big story, everybody gets really excited, and then we have a hard time implementing the last final stages that lock it in system-wide, company-wide, right?
Because running on a system, whether it's EOS or anything else, it's not a flash in the pan. It's not a flavor of the month. It's something that you do for the long term. This is how we're going to run things.
You're choosing
forever.
a language to run on.
Right.
So if we say we're going to run on the language English, you're not going to do that for a day. It's what you're going to do. So that's what this is. It's a language. It's a structure.
Yeah.
It's multi-layered, and it rolls out to every corner of the organization. And when you do that, it's like a bright flashlight going into all the corners. And I love what Gino said in one of his books. He says, someone will come to you and say, this is not working. And what you need to hear is, I'm not working, and oh no.
Yeah.
There's high accountability now, and everybody knows.
But that takes a lot of energy to sustain that.
On your own, without a guide.
And keep that going. So we did an annual planning meeting, and our integrator, who's our second in command, she ran that day.
Let me cut in just for a second, and let's come right back to right where we are right now. You said integrator. Just explain the difference between implementer and integrator, because I think that's confusing for people. Thanks,
I know.
Thanks EOS for picking two words that sound very similar.
No, you need to say thank you to Gino.
Gino.
Thanks, no thanks. Yeah, I think we all have a big bone to pick with him on that one. But they are very...
I think it was a test for us. It's like, if you can tell the difference, you're ready for EOS.
So an implementer is someone that helps you to implement the EOS tools. They're the coach. That's what I am. An integrator is a person in your organization. They're the second in command. They help integrate the way that the leadership team works together, plays together to achieve
And the business world calls the integrator
a president.
A president. Okay.
Yeah.
And the visionary is the CEO.
Correct.
Who holds the culture, the big ideas, the big partnerships, the
Top
big
dog,
sales.
whatever. Titles don't
Well,
really
actually,
mean,
we've gained clarity on EOS, and in the accountability chart, they put the visionary at the top because we love to see ourselves there, but we're not actually running the company.
Right.
It's the second in command that runs
run the show.
operations,
Yeah,
right?
they're the glue
And
that
they
holds everything
also
together.
have final say.
Right.
And so when you start to understand that the integrator has the final say, the integrator is always the tiebreaker, and you
Right.
don't rule by consensus. You don't
Right.
rule by votes.
Right.
You've just handed this role all the decision making for the day-to-day operations, right? And also the one-on-ones with all the staff, all the
Humbling.
yeah. But because it takes visionaries a while to get to the point where they actually love and appreciate that, the structure visually puts us at the top so we can be like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
Sure.
We should be at the top.
Yeah.
We own the company.
Yeah.
But really in operations, it's just a nice, cute little figure. It's like saying that the ornament on the front of the car is what's making the whole car work. We're just the
Yeah,
ornament on the front of the car. We're the Jaguar sticking our head out, but there's an engine, steering wheel, wheels, everything behind us.
I
That's
love that.
actually the integral parts. We're just
Right,
an emblem that
right.
could be flicked off and the
Right.
car would still run.
Our integrator was running our
Yep.
annual planning meeting, right? And so I sat in on it. At this point in time, I'm not the visionary. I'm not the integrator. I don't have a seat on the accountability chart. I'm an owner. I should not have even been in that meeting. Now that I know better, I know that. But I was there. I sat in on the day as an owner. And at the end of you were the visionary and our integrator and we decided we were going to go out for brunch the next day to kind of debrief. So we went out for brunch the next day, and our integrator at that time was fractional. So during COVID, our business essentially totally tanked. And so she was the full-time president of our company pre-COVID. During COVID, she went fractional, worked out for her, worked out for us. And so it was great. It was a great situation at that time for what we needed it for all of us. And her fractional integrating business was booming. And this was in January of 2022. And she was like, look, Amanda, like I know you know this stuff. You love this stuff. My business is booming. Why don't we start like a fractional integrating firm together? And you could do what I do, and we could, build this up to something really cool. And I thought about it for like 30 seconds, and I was like, ain't no way. That's not for me. I knew my
Know thyself to lead thyself.
It was
right out the door.
Yeah, kind of a gut feeling, but also like I had seen her during COVID sit at our kitchen table and run these like remote meetings with all of these different teams and manage the day to day. And I'm like, man, 5 kids, businesses, nonprofit, like all this stuff that we deal with day to day. I manage enough day to day. I don't want to deal with like the day to day of another business, let alone multiple businesses. I'm like, no, not for me. But I do love this stuff. You're right. And I love teaching, and I love coaching, and I love the leadership and I do love management. So, there's got to be something.
And you love
there.
facilitating aha moments,
Absolutely.
pulling out the knowledge that's already there, getting it out on the whiteboard for the aha moments that were just waiting to happen.
It absolutely,
That's
revs me up. And I'm a nurturer, and I care about people, and I want to see people succeed. And so, my wheels started turning, and I'm like, what could there be out there for me in that regard? And you were like, why don't you become an implementer? And I was like, what the heck is that? And so you explained what an implementer was, and you were like, they go and they teach EOS to people. And so I think you could do it. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I think I could do it too. Really not knowing like what I was getting myself into.
And the next boot camp was in 17 days.
Well, we didn't know that at the time. But
yeah.
You had a phone number for Amber Baird, she's been in the EOS community for forever and a day. She was Gino's integrator at one point. And so you called her up right there and then, and you were like, Amanda wants to be an implementer. What can she do? How do we do it? What's the next step? And Amber was like, whoa, Joe. Because remember,
first off, we penciled your name in. Why aren't you coming?
Well, actually we were like, yeah, they all thought at EOS, I think they thought for years and years that you'd become an
I'd threatened a few times to become one.
And so then you were like, well, maybe we should both do it. Maybe we could co-implement. We could like be partner implementers, and we could like, tag team. And we had this big, they were like, no,
like,
absolutely
no.
not. That's not how it works.
There's a reason why no one else is doing that. But we're different. We're unique.
We have some great ideas and some not so great ideas. But they were like, let me tell you how it does work. So there's a webinar tomorrow. Get on it. We'll start explaining the process and how it works. And let's just take this one step at a time. So we were like, okay, cool. So the next day we got on the webinar, and I remember it was like a 30-minute webinar. They told us some, I mean, it probably went in one ear right out the other. It didn't really matter what they said. I think you and I were both like, we're doing
it.
Like, this is it, right? So at the end of the webinar, they were like, do you have any questions? Anyone have any questions? And we were like, where do we sign? Like, where do we send the check?
How do we,
what do we do?
What time do we show up? What time should she come for the training?
So
they were like, whoa. There's a 14-day waiting period. We're like, perfect. There's 17 days until the training.
Yeah. So we were like, when's the next boot? So you have to go to boot camp. This is a thing. It's a training, a 2-day intensive training that implementers go and do after they buy their franchise, trains you up to be an implementer. So,
and most people take about 6 months to prepare for that training.
Oh yeah. Like, it's intense, and there is preparation.
You have to
that is
regurgitate
ideal.
90-minute presentations from memory at the training.
Yeah.
So there's work to do before you go. And you're like, send me the paperwork so I can sign it 14
I'd go the
days
next day.
before.
If I could, I would have gone the very next day.
Wow, you must be a quick start.
I'm absolutely not, but I'm married to one. So, no, it's just, this was one of those things, like, in life, we have these moments where, and it was like when we met, or, when we moved to this country, or there are certain things, opportunities that present themselves. And it's like, when you know. And it was one of those moments. I can't really even describe it, like, other than I knew in my gut, this was my next thing. And so when you're like, let's just do this, right? Like, you just want to jump in. And patience is a virtue. So I'm normally a very patient person, but we had to just like wait it out and follow the process. And so we did sign the FDD the next day, and there's like a 14-day
franchise
period.
Disclosure document.
Right. And then
there's a 14-day freak out period where you can change your mind. And,
yeah. We weren't freaking out. We were just like, okay,
we're like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
What day is the 14th day?
Yeah. And the next boot camp was in 17 days. So they were like, look, you're cutting it really close. And just so you know, boot camp is full. Like, there are 2 groups, and the in-person groups were full. But because we were still, coming out of COVID, they had some virtual groups at the time. I don't think that they happen anymore, but they were like, you can sign up for that one, or you can wait till May. And we were like, we're not waiting till May. Absolutely not. So we'll sign up for the virtual one. That sucks, but we'll do it.
Yeah, because the in-person training was in...
It was in Las Vegas.
Yeah, okay.
They were celebrating hitting their 10-year target, their big BHAG, their energizing long-term goal. They had hit it during COVID, and they were celebrating it. It was 2022.
So it was an organization-wide gathering to celebrate this.
Literally everyone
milestone.
From EOS across the globe was going to be here in Las Vegas. And normally this annual meeting happens in Texas, but it was going to be in Las Vegas. And you and I discussed it, and we were like, well, wouldn't that be cool if you were there to meet people and to network and, and take advantage of this.
Because your computer can be anywhere. So go where the people are and sit on your computer.
Yeah. So we decided that I'd go to Vegas, get a hotel room at the resort where this big celebration and big event was happening, and do my virtual sessions from my hotel room, and then sneak down to the bar and network with people in the evenings or when I wasn't in session. So that was the plan. The 14-day waiting period passed. Boot camp was coming up, and actually it was on the day that I was leaving for boot camp to go to Las Vegas. You and I stopped.
Sunbliss.
We went for an acai bowl at our favorite place.
Anaheim Hills, Sunbliss. Shout out. I am addicted.
So we went for our acai bowl. You were driving me to the airport.
Which, by the way, is very Southern California.
Yeah. Look at us.
Even more so when I request gluten-free granola.
Right.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Maybe that's another episode we'll talk about dietary restrictions. I got a phone call while we were there.
Hold on. Can we put a link to Sunbliss in the notes somewhere?
Absolutely. We should put a link in the show notes for a small business every time we do a podcast. I was on my way to the airport, and I got a phone call, and they said, hey, I have great news. Somebody got COVID. Not great for them. But for me, it was great news because a spot
I'm just laughing at the
up.
phrasing.
I know. A spot opened up in person, and they were like, can you get here? Boot camp starts tomorrow. And I'm like, guess what? I'm on my way. So,
and they were like,
yeah. It was really cool. It was really exciting. So I went to Las Vegas, and I got a spot in person, and I did boot camp, and it was a total like fish out of water experience. I was not prepared at all. I mean, I knew I wasn't prepared, but I didn't know how not prepared I was. A lot of these people who had signed up for boot camp signed up 6 months to a year in advance. They had been preparing. Even some of them had clients already. So I was like green, like rookie. I called you every night crying from my hotel room.
You're a thinker, so there was no emotion. You were just like, yes, this is challenging. I'm going to be able to do
Normally
it.
in life, you will cry 100 times to my one. You're very emotional and you're a feeler. I am not. I'm very grounded, realistic, and I'm a thinker. But man, I was like, I was so fish out of water. It was just so overwhelming and emotional for me. I'm so thankful, first of all, to my coach, Chris Jones. There's so many things in life, that I look for signs and for like those things that present themselves where you're like, this is not a coincidence.
Clicking in.
Yeah. So I walk into boot camp and my coach greets me, and like, normally when you sign up for a boot camp, you get assigned a coach and you do a call with them before. There's a whole process, right? And that didn't happen for me because of how the circumstances unfolded. I walk into my boot camp room and my coach was like, hey, I'm Chris. And I could tell right immediately from the get-go from his accent that he was Canadian. And so I'm like, oh, you're Canadian? And he's like, yeah, I'm from Calgary. And I was like, oh my gosh. It just felt so comforting and like nostalgic.
Because we had last place we lived was an hour from Calgary.
Right, yeah. So that was really cool just to have that. It was just really comforting for me to have that like little comfort blanket of my Canadian coach, like helping me through this. And he was such a huge support. So shout out, Chris. I'm so thankful for you. It was a really wild experience for me, and it was stretching for sure. But I'm midlife. I'm 41. And so at the time I was 39, but I was approaching my 40th. And, I think at this stage of life, I'm all in for getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so I just embraced it. And as challenging and rocky and wild as it was, I just jumped in with both feet. And
what's your saying? Most people are afraid of.
Yeah, there's a great Tim Ferriss quote. I'm going to totally butcher. I butcher jokes. I butcher quotes. But he said, most people settle for a life of regret than a life of uncertainty. And I don't want to be one of those people. I've seen too many people in my life do that, just settle for the status quo. And I'm happy jumping into a life of uncertainty because I know that the outcomes are going to be greater than I could have ever imagined. And so I'm embracing that life. I've done that many times, and that was a moment where I've done that and it paid off exponentially. So yeah, looking back, it's just, now it's funny. At the time, it wasn't funny. It was...
Our roles are reversed. You were calling crying. I was like, babe, it's going to be fine. You knew that this was going to be hard. You knew you weren't prepared. You have your life ahead of you to learn all the things you need to learn. I love that they have a special event experience for the high performers after the content they do for everybody else. And you just positioned yourself to meet all of them. Tell me how you did that.
That was funny. So at the time I didn't have an assistant. You were my assistant.
Low attention to detail.
Yeah. I fired my
Sometimes
assistant.
I forget to hit
real quick
book of the flight. I do all the and then didn't book it.
So you booked my flights, and it was arranged that I would fly out like right after everything wrapped up. So everything wrapped up on the last day, and there, like you said, there is an additional day. So if you hit a certain revenue milestone as an implementer, you get invited to something called Freedom Forum, and that's an additional day. There's a Freedom Forum dinner, and then you stay for another day of training. And so I and hundreds of other implementers who don't qualify for that skedaddled. And I was at the airport and I'm trying to sign in at the kiosk and it's not working. And I'm like, what's going on? And remember, like, I've just gone through this like intensive multi-day training and I'm just like fried. So I'm trying to figure it out. And I call this lady over and I'm like, it's not working. I don't know what's going on. And she's like, sweetie, you're not supposed to be here today at 8:00. You're supposed to be here tomorrow at 8:00. You're here a whole day early. That's why you can't sign in. And I was like, oh my God.
What a dummy.
So I called
whoever booked that ticket.
Yeah. Well, my assistant got fired pretty shortly after that. But I called you and I was like, hey, what do I do? Like, should I get on the next flight? Should I figure this out? Should I fly on another airline? There are no more flights coming out on this airline tonight. What should I do? You're like, no, you go back to that hotel You book another night and you stay and you meet people. There are people there.
The highest performers.
Yeah, there are important people that you need to meet, and just stick it out and stay there and make the best of this. And I was like, okay. So I got back in the Uber and I went back and I hung out with some people that night. And then the next day, brought my computer down into the lobby, and I was doing work. Coming out of boot camp, you have this whole checklist of stuff that you have to do. And I love a list, right? Like I love checking things off a list. So I got to work on all that stuff. I was setting up my microsite and my email, and I was like, in the lobby right by the doors where the Freedom Forum people came out. And so people started
They open,
coming
it's
out.
like, oh, there's Amanda.
And I was really the only boot camper left. Like everybody had left. They had no reason to stay, right? So people were coming up to me and we were chatting, and our community is so engaging and welcoming. And, one of our core values is help first, and another one is humbly confident. And these people in this community live out those core values. So, the people were coming up to me and just like learning about me and engaging with me and asking how they could help me. And I made a lot of really great initial points of contact with some really great people who benefited my practice greatly and my life greatly. Like there are things that happen in life where you're like, okay, I could see this as like a total derailment, as a negative, or I could see this in a positive light and see how I can make this work for me. And so that was one of those situations where I just kind of made it work for me.
Awesome. It sounds like there's some crossover between homeschooling and what you do today. Where would that crossover be?
Yeah, in the EOS session room, I tell my clients being a great leader is a lot like being a great parent. You have a handful of rules. You have to repeat yourself often, and so on and so on. I really lean into that. Like my years of being a parent and being a homeschool mom in particular really set me up well for being a great leader in the session room and leading my teams in a way where they feel like they have a safe space, where they feel like they can be seen and heard, where they feel nurtured and cared for, but also where they feel pushed outside of their comfort zone, where they can go maybe further than they thought they could go. And I challenge them really tactful, graceful way, I think. That's the feedback that I receive. But I'm going to bring them high challenge and say the things that maybe they're too afraid to say, or address the things that need to be addressed that are sort of like bubbling below the surface. I'm not afraid to go there. I don't have, an emotional tie to this business.
Certainly not like the owner does.
No, not to that
You want to
extent.
see them succeed.
Absolutely. Their wins are my wins. It is emotional, but I'm not in the day-to-day with them.
Yeah.
And so maybe I have a little bit of ignorance is bliss, or like naivety, because I'm not in the day-to-day in the office, and I don't pick up on those social nuances or whatever, like the things that are happening that are the norm.
And it's true that often not knowing the industry keeps you focused on the purity of the structure, because the structure works in every industry, every business.
Right.
So you don't need, like,
so
if somebody,
it's like I have those horse blinders on, almost like I am the master of
you're like
the
a Mandalorian.
EOS tools.
You're like, this is the way. They're like, we think that we're special. You're like, okay,
Right.
unicorn, this is the way.
Right. And so I can keep directing them back to that.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
Yeah. And it's great. I love it. And I really think that I have been set up well with my experience as an entrepreneur for the last 2 decades. And then also coupling that with my experience as a parent, as a mom, as a homeschool teacher, and all of our life experiences bring us to where we're at today. And we're all exactly where we're supposed to be. And I think when you can tap into that and you can play to your strengths and your experiences, man, that's where the magic happens. And you really get to live a super fulfilling, rewarding life if you are open to the possibilities.
Talk to me a little bit, in just a couple minutes, describe what the grind was like, really getting it going. What were some of the challenges for you specifically? What can other people expect to experience when they start their big idea? And then let's end with like where you are today.
Yeah, everyone's journey is different. If you're starting up a business, there are going to be challenges for you depending on where you come from, what resources you have, your life experience. So for us, my challenges might not be the same as other people's challenges. We've talked about this before. We had some funds because of how we were set up post-COVID. We had some money set aside to do something to invest in. So I wasn't taking out like a loan to buy my franchise, right? Where some people might have to do that. We had another business that was thriving, and I wasn't necessarily under this pressure where I had to like,
Put food on the table.
Yeah, exactly. From day one or week one or month one. So there were some things where I had like that advantage, but there were other areas where I had a huge disadvantage. I didn't have a network, right? So like there were people coming into this, like I said, that had clients already, or they had like a Rolodex, right? Like they had this whole, whoever's listening,
Date
if you're
yourself.
a Gen Alpha and you're listening to this, like you're not going to know what that is, but
Gen
that-
Alpha is our youngest son. How did he get alpha?
I don't think a 10-year-old's listening to this, but for people who don't know what a Rolodex is, it's like all those phone numbers, all those contacts that you've collected over the years. I didn't have that, right? And so I really had to build my network up from ground zero from day one. And so that was hard when you're building a business and you're trying to like learn the ropes. And, I knew these things, I'd use them in my business, but I didn't necessarily know how to teach them properly. And so
or even how to get in front of the people that needed this.
Right,
Like
exactly.
when they're like, call your network, and you're like, okay, there's 3 homeschool moms I could call. I can call my mother-in-law.
Well, I know I literally, I was in, well, yeah, like they say like, just get the reps in. And I'm like, or pick up the phone and sell. And I'm like,
To
get the
who?
reps. Yeah. Who am I supposed to be presenting this to? Who am
So
I
you
supposed
did present to
calling?
your mother-in-law.
I presented to my mother-in-law, my dog, my son. Like I think especially my middle kid, he got the brunt of it. And
I think he listened twice to the whole 90-minute
I think
presentation.
he could probably do that 90-minute presentation, high level. Like he's probably memorized it. They're sick of hearing me over and over and over practicing this thing. But like, yeah, so I had some things stacked against me. So, I think everybody's hustle and grind when they're building a business is going to look different because you have advantages, you have disadvantages, right? And so you have to just like roll with it and figure it out as you go along. And like,
I think one consistency is that you're going to do a lot of work that doesn't show any fruit. No matter how big your network is, you're going to do a lot of work. And so when your personal core value and your company core value is help first, we define that in our family as we don't ask if we've done enough. We simply ask, what more can we do? Forward facing. What more can we do? You really leaned into that. You had a history of that serving you, of that fulfilling you. And so you just showed up. You were doing presentations for college students in dorm rooms.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't in their dorm room.
No,
Let
no.
me just say that.
Virtual.
Physically. Yes, I was virtually in their dorm room. I did have, that was a funny situation that popped up. Yeah, I would do a 90. The 90, for anyone who doesn't know, is like the discovery call, right? Like any implementer anywhere
What
in
is
the world.
EOS?
They'll do a
Let's do a
90-minute
90.
meeting for
Yep.
you, and it'll explain everything, all
In
the nuts
person
and
or
bolts.
virtual,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you were definitely virtual with the dorm room.
Yeah, so I got sent a warm lead from
Bunch of frat
EOS
boys.
Worldwide, and and I didn't know. I mean, I was just like you said, I'm doing a 90 for anybody and their dog. And so I got this person who got sent to me in my inbox, and we set up a 90-minute meeting. And then I pop up on the Zoom, and all these boys pop up on the screen, and I'm like, wait a second, like, where are you all calling from? Because their backgrounds looked very similar. It looked like they were in dorm rooms. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, where are you guys calling from? And they're like, USC. I'm like, what? Do you guys have a bit? Like, tell me about your business. And we were just like chatting, and they're like, no, we're in a business class, and we were told to look into this
So cool.
operating system by our mentor because he runs his business on it, and yada, yada. And so I was like, okay, cool. So
But you love those calls.
yeah, it was great. And you know
It
what?
inspires you and excites you to be
Oh my
around
gosh,
young
yeah.
future
And
entrepreneurs.
you know what was really cool about that one is that he connected me with his sister, I think she was graduated from college, and we connected on a business, a startup that she was starting up. And so I got to kind of like help her and mentor her. And then I've connected with both of them since then, and I will continue to connect with them, and who knows where that's going to go. But yeah, it energizes me to like, especially investing into young people, into women, into
minorities.
these,
You
Yeah,
love
it's-
working with minorities.
It's so fun. And I know it is help first. And it is like, it's what we do. It's a core value, but it really is who I am. Like you and I will help anybody with anything without expecting anything in return, because we have an opportunity to do that in the position that we're in life. We've received that in our life so many times, countless times. And so we will extend ourselves for people because
I had someone introduce me as his mentor one time, and I was like, what? And then I remembered that I had said that about somebody else, Irv Braun, and his reaction was the same. He was like, wait, what? I'm a mentor right now? What's going on? Are you sure? It was
kind of just
fun
sneaks up on
because
you.
it was about the same time of life.
Right.
Like I'm in my mid 40s. He was
Yeah.
in his 40s. And I went to him and he gave me great advice. He told me,
Yeah.
definitely do not do that business. That was
Yeah.
great advice. No one had been that candid. But then he also followed up with saying, this idea is well thought out, but it will not be successful because cash flow doesn't happen quickly enough. But you are going to be successful. He did a really good job of encouraging the entrepreneur while still telling me, don't do this for these reasons.
Right.
Just keep looking. You haven't found the thing yet, but when you find it, you are wired to be successful.
Right.
That was such good advice.
Yeah.
And
there's
it made me go back to him over and over again. But
Yeah.
he was like, we're friends. I can't mentor.
Yeah.
And so I heard someone say that about me, and the same person has said that about you as well. And so it's just so cool, like you said, to now be in a position where it's like, whoa, this exact conversation happened 20 years ago, and
Yeah.
I was on the other side.
And we don't take that lightly. And
No.
there is a big difference between a mentor and a coach. And we can talk about that another time, go a little bit deeper into that. But it's been really cool to be able to help people without expecting anything in return and have it turn into something. Sometimes it turns into a relationship where it's, a client relationship, or sometimes it just turns into a mentoring relationship. Other times it doesn't go anywhere, but you never know, like down the road where it's going to go, like law of reciprocity or like karma, whatever you want to call it. It's just really fun for me to like connect with people, to help them to impact their life in some sort of a way. For me, my personal why, or my core focus is to make a lasting, meaningful, positive impact in the lives of the people that I meet every day. Whether that's opening up a door for somebody, literally or figuratively, making someone smile, complimenting someone, transforming their business and their life, whatever it is, like big or small.
Well, you're really good at that. You're good at just spotting someone, and because of your wiring as a nurturer, you really do a great job of seeing an opportunity to bless someone with words.
Thank you.
And you will just like go over to them in a restaurant, on a bus, in an airport, and you'll just be like, what a lovely hat. I remember you said that to this elderly lady who was having tea with her friends, and she looked like she had put in the work, right? She was wearing a nice hat. She was all done up, and you walked by and you were like, what a lovely hat. And I was out in the truck when you were, and I could see you talking to her on the patio, and the look on her face was just like, you changed her whole morning. You do a really good job of that. I rarely see people do that to you, and I think it's just because it's not common. And so one thing you do really well is you're uncommonly good and perceptive in a way that really blesses people around you.
Thanks.
Can you, just in case we don't get into a full episode about it, can you in like 60 seconds, 30 seconds each at most, tell me what's the difference high level between mentorship and coaching?
Well, I think coaching is when you're teaching someone a specific set of tools that will help them in that stage of life to get them to another level in their career or what they're doing. I think mentoring is more listening, sharing your life experiences, and maybe speaking into not necessarily teaching them something tangible, but giving them
Support.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That life experience.
Very cool. Okay, I want to know, what is the big ambition? What's the big thing that you want? Maybe not specifically or isolated just to EOS, but where are you going? Where can we expect to see you when you cross 50? That gives you a lot of time to accomplish this goal.
She's 50. Yeah, I mean, so I have a big goal of becoming an expert implementer. I'm a certified EOS implementer, so I have moved up in a designation.
So it's professional, then certified, then expert.
Correct. Yeah. So that's where I'm going. I want to impact as many people and businesses as I possibly can, and that will lead me to becoming an expert implementer. And Along the way, I have ambitions and goals to write a book, a New York Times bestseller. I'm putting it out. I would love to coach and mentor women. I'm developing a coaching program. I've done some keynote speaking. I would like to
Coaching
continue doing
program,
that.
tell me high level, what is the goal of the coaching program? What can people expect who would participate in this coaching program?
A holistic life coaching program. So just like I help my clients get what they want from their business, I want to help women get what they want from their life. I am living proof that anything is possible. If you want something, you can create the life that you want. You can live your life by design, and it just takes steps to do that and getting intentional about what you want and creating a pathway to do that. So I'm going to create a program. I am creating a program to help women to achieve more and live their best life, whatever that looks like. And so doing that sort of like one-on-one coaching and mentoring, I'm really excited to lean more into that as I move into another season of life. And yeah, just impact as many people, make a meaningful, lasting, positive impact on the people that I meet every day.
You said something about being a keynote.
I have done some keynote speaking at conferences with my EOS training, helping people in workshops and whatnot. And then I'm emceeing a women's conference in the fall. So I really enjoy doing that. I love getting up in front of people and talking. And so I have a lot of things to share in the business world, in my personal world, and bringing that all together. I'm working on becoming a better communicator and speaker and engaging more groups doing that. One thing that I absolutely love about the line of work I'm in and the community that I'm in, we are on a path to mastery. You've never arrived, right? And so for me, it's a lifelong journey. I've never arrived. I never will arrive. And I'm just going to stay on this path to mastery and just keep going and see where it takes me.
I certainly have enjoyed watching the progress from where you started as a 21-year-old where you started, but where you are today is totally different.
Yeah,
Totally different version of life than I think you would have ever drawn up.
absolutely.
And 1,000 times better than you could have ever drawn up for yourself. And so I think that's a huge encouragement for people. You know, you certainly look the part of an Orange County housewife, but you are not.
Right.
And so you're so many different, I mean, you are an Orange County woman.
Not the kind you see on TV.
But not the kind you see on TV. And I think you're a great example of don't judge a book by its cover, because it could be so much more inside. And I think a lot of times we say don't judge a book by its cover because you might be thinking of the wrong book. It's not that we're totally misunderstanding who you are. We're just not understanding fully who you are by labeling you one thing, right? And so I think that's super cool, is that so many people, as they get to know you, they're always like, wow, you're just so interesting. That will be something that comes up like, wow, you're so interesting. I think that makes you much more relatable than people first think. They don't know that you came from consecutive generations of immigration and what that does to your DNA and your wiring, which we talked about in a different episode. But I think it's just amazing, not only who you've become over the last 20 years, but who you're set up to become over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And I think it's really cool that you're in a community that is open and honest as a value. We think about the negative part of that, of open and honest, just being honest. Like, no, you're being a bit of a jerk. Like, you don't have to say everything just because you think it. You're in a community that's open and honest as a value, and they say things to you that other people can say, but you know that this is a value base of where their statement is coming from. Mm-hmm. When they say to you, like, I just see so much in your future. I see you on a stage. I see you writing a book. You start to look around, you're like, these are high performing people that are working with multi-million dollar companies, and they are respected in this industry, and they say that they can see these traits in me that are going to make me successful. I know that from day one when you were calling me crying. People were already saying that to you. And that has to be a significant encouragement. And then your biological hardwiring to go around and you say that to other people. Like, think about how much that's meant to you, those people talking to you. Man, you being wired to just every time we go out, just comment on somebody. I'm like, oh, those are adorable shoes. Where did you get them? You just strike up conversations that make people feel good about choices they've made in a really honest, intentional, and vulnerable way. And I think that's a trait that makes you such a good teacher. And I think most people who work with you view you as a teacher who who is in their corner and is a friend of theirs. And they, whoa, that's called getting old. But people see that in you and they love that about you. So thank you so much for sharing vulnerably and candidly and taking us on this journey of how you got to where you are today in your business and then projecting where you're going. It's fun to hear that. And I love what you said. I'm just putting it out there. There's going to be a New York bestseller. Someday people will watch this episode and it will already be out and people will already be reading it. How cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. This has been fun.
Thanks.